Sola Street. Last week we learned about the cycle of sin in Judges. This is how it happened. Israel serves the Lord during the lifetime of Joshua. Then Israel falls into sin and idolatry. Then Israel is enslaved to the king of Mesopotamia. Israel cries out to the Lord. God raises up a judge, Othniel, and Israel is delivered.
So Israel serves the Lord for 40 years, and then Israel falls into sin and idolatry, and then God sends Eglon, the king of Moab, and he enslaves Israel for 18 years. Israel cries out to the Lord, and God raises up the judge Ehud, which Ehud kills Eglon, the king of Moab, and delivers Israel from slavery, and then they're free.
Next, Israel served the Lord during the life of Ehud for 18 years. And Israel falls into sin and idolatry. Then Israel was enslaved, and Israel cried out to the Lord. God raised up a judge named Shamgar, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad. Israel was delivered.
That's it. So Israel serves the Lord during the life of Shamgar, but then Israel falls into sin and idolatry again, and it's enslaved by Canaan for 20 years. So Israel cries out to the Lord and is raised up by Deborah, who is the only female judge out of all of these judges. She went and did things to save Israel from the Canaanites because the original guy that God chose was too scared to do it. So she went with him and told him how to do it all. So then Israel is delivered.
So you can see there were many different judges and many different times where Israel for many different years fell back into slavery and again had to be delivered by a leader that God rose up. Something that I find interesting is that each of those leaders is different. Othniel was a warrior, and he helped his father-in-law Caleb defeat people at battle. Ehud was a strategist, and he killed the king in secret while he was relieving himself in like a bathhouse. And he did it secretly and was able to strategically, like a spy, kill this king. Shamgar used an ox goad, which is like a shepherd's staff, but for prodding oxen. And he killed 600 men by himself just using that instrument. He's very brave. Deborah was a woman, and she would sit at the trees, below this tree, and people would come to her and ask her for advice, and she would give advice. And so she was very wise and had very good ideas. But she wasn't a warrior. She wasn't a shepherd. She wasn't an oxen keeper. She was a woman who would give people advice. And so we're going to learn about all of these different kind of people. There are still more judges we're going to cover, but we're going to stop here today because the next couple of judges, the Bible tells us more about their story. But the thing that's very interesting is that all of these judges are different. All of these judges have different qualities. But the thing that makes them successful at delivering and defeating the enemy of Israel is God. Okay, so we need to know that. The same God who is the God of Israel in Judges is our God today. And that God can use us no matter how different we are, no matter what our personality is and what our talents are. God is the one. He is the one who accomplishes good things. So we need to be willing, be brave, to go and do what God asks us to do. So I'm super excited because next week we're going to start meeting back in the back again. So you guys come ready to learn, okay?